Hello, UAE Grow Your Finances community.
Where we discuss how to make your money work for you as opposed to the other way around, and how best to grow your finances within the UAE. Here, we like to flip challenges around and create ideas, opportunities, and possibilities so that we can all succeed together, because there are enough seats for everyone at this table. Russ, how are you today?
I am amazing once again after that incredible intro.
Today, we have a bit of a different guest. Our guest today is not a CEO. She is not an entrepreneur, so to speak. However, she is one of the most underrated roles on the planet. She is on a mission to revolutionize the way we shape our children's minds and help them to grow in a world that's ever-changing.
She definitely underrates herself, and she definitely underrates the role that she plays in her children's lives.
And the role she plays within the world, because it's such an imperative role.
So it's incredibly interesting, and I feel that there is so much more needed in this field, in this area. And I definitely think it's an area that we will probably venture into in the near future.
Yeah, and thanks to people like her, she's paving the way for us and kind of showing us the way through her own experience, which is a unique experience. It's something that goes against the grain and something that questions our current systems. And that is how greatness is born, when people ask questions and look for ways to improve and evolve. So I'm really excited to get into the discussion with Olivia today. But first, I have a discussion topic for you. So Ross, are you ready to make finance fun?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
In 3, 2, 1,
Fun!
The discussion topic for today is about expats who find themselves caught up in the wealth, flash, and lifestyle of Dubai. And they may not know it, but their friends say that they have changed, that it's changed them. What do you think it is about when people are exposed to, let's say, a flashy lifestyle and money that possibly changes them in a way that people who knew them before and know them pretty well say that they've changed as a person and that it's sad?
The reason is greed, one of the reasons. The other reason is ego. And the other reason is, how come the Joneses can do it? So therefore I would like to keep up with the Joneses. It's a lifestyle that destroys people. People come to the UAE, they live here 20, 25 years, and then they wake up and they say, Ross, how do I make money fast? This is many questions I get all over the group. If people come to me and they say, I've been here 10 years, 15 years, I don't have a dirham to save. How do I make a lot of money?
Is that because they're spending everything that they're making?
Correct. They're in crisis mode. When you spend money like some people do, you can never really get out of it unless you completely do a 360 in your life. Because if you move into an apartment that is crazy expensive, you pay rental for a year. To get out of that contract, it's a nightmare and you'll lose a lot of money.
But my question is, why do people lose themselves in it? Why do you think people lose themselves in it?
So let's start off with greed, right? Greed is something that people have learned from the shows we watch, the movies we watch,
Social media,
the lifestyle we live in, stock markets, crypto markets. People want to get rich quick. They're greedy.
And what do they think that will bring them?
They think it will bring them happiness, but at the end of the day, it never does. You're able to buy more things, but what are things? Things are not generally there to make you happy. They can facilitate happiness, 100%. I'm not going to lie about that. But they don't in itself make you happy. You need your family, you need your friends, you need your lifestyle to be good in order for you to be actually happy.
Okay, so greed and ego.
So ego is also exactly the same. People are learning this from the internet, they're learning from TV shows, they're learning from movies. And then when you go on to Keeping Up with the Joneses, it's so hard not to in this country, in the city especially, because every second car is a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. So we don't really live a minimalist lifestyle in Dubai. So for you to be able to say, I'm not going to go with this current, I'm going to go against it, it's difficult sometimes. Sometimes you're pure pressured into, when your friends say, come, let's go to this restaurant, let's go to that restaurant, without you really seeing the menu and everything. Maybe you get there and it's like a Michelin star restaurant.
And also people talk about money very freely, and sometimes because people are ashamed that they're from a background that they're trying to cover up, like they didn't have money before and now maybe they do have a little bit more, but still overspending. There's a lot of shame that they're carrying, that they're trying to hide, so they like to pass it on to other people. And this is something about shame, is that it's contagious. When you're holding shame inside of yourself, very often you're in denial about it, but it's contagious. You actually pass that shame on to other people around you. And I feel like people talk about money so freely here in Dubai, and in that conversation, if you're the one to go against the grain and say like, oh, that actually doesn't matter to me, that actually doesn't appeal to me, you could very easily get shamed and ostracized and kind of like pushed aside or ridiculed or viewed in a bad way. And it's human nature. We're pack animals. Humans want to be included because it's actually like a survival thing that's built within us. So I think that that's something that could send somebody into a bit of a panic. So that's going a little bit deeper with it. But also when you say keeping up with the Joneses, there's just something that pops up into my mind immediately. And that's that you don't know the Joneses.
Correct.
The Joneses could be from old money with so many family issues and so much sorrow and sadness within their family structure that they already know that money doesn't fulfill a person, that it's not the way. And they just so wish that they had the freedom that you have, or the family structure that you have. Or the Joneses could be a family that's in so much debt and trying to keep up with some other Joneses,
Yeah.
and they look like they have it all, but actually they're on the verge of getting arrested because they can't pay off their debt. You don't know the Joneses. So I think a lot of the time people think that this is a very tangible tool that can solve their problems. And the fact of the matter is that even when you have more money, you're still exactly the same person with the same internal problems. So it's not going to take away your internal struggles if you suddenly come into wealth somehow, or you work your way to wealth.
You could probably pay for lots of treatment in order to help you with that.
Yeah.
But normally the person that is making a lot of money, if they weren't doing treatment before the money, they're probably not going to be doing the treatment after the money.
Exactly, because they've been using that as therapy. They've been using the clothes and the cars and the flash as a way of feeling better, not realizing that it's actually a bottomless, there's a hole at the bottom of their cup, and the more that they're pouring in, it's just pouring out the bottom. And so they've just got to keep pouring in. And that's why they're not feeling fulfilled.
Yeah. Let's go back to the debt
Mm-hmm.
and the loans and the credit cards and all of that jazz. In this city, in this country, I literally get 3 or 4 phone calls a week from a bank that's offering me an interest-free for 3 months credit card, a loan at this specific interest rate. So this could be a completely another point for why people are trying to keep up and trying to spend a lot of money, is because sometimes they get trapped in these loan and debt tricks that these banks are playing.
Yeah.
And you come across it every day here. So this is something also that is probably a reason why people get trapped into these loans and debts, is because that person's trying to make their commission.
That's so sad and awful. And there should be regulations about that.
I think there are, but there's ways around them as well.
Really scary, because I'm the type of person who would get trapped only because I feel like that's then my money. I don't think I'm the same way anymore, but
No.
I'm thinking about, when I used to get tricked into things.
Although you do like to use Tabby quite a bit.
I used Tabby a lot, yeah.
And then you don't know where the next payment is.
But I don't actually buy flashy things with it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. The way I spend my money is for what fulfills me and makes me feel happy and comfortable. It's not about impressing other people.
No, you're very cautious with your money nowadays.
I try to be.
You learned from the group.
However, what I want to say to people that might find them in that cycle where they feel that they need external things to kind of validate themselves, to feel good about themselves, or maybe you recognize a bit of it within yourself of what we're talking about. And there's no shame in that whatsoever, because society does fully encourage us all to live that way. But I do think that there's a bit of a movement now, because people are a bit sick of the same old, there's only so much you can see of it, and I think there's a bit of a movement now where people are focusing within, like more and more people are starting to focus within. There's a movement of minimalism where people are trying to like declutter and get rid of excess in their lives, and they kind of just want to like declutter their minds, declutter their space, declutter everything, and go towards simplicity and peace, yes, and space and freedom, and going within themselves and just finding that stillness in a busy, overcluttered, overstimulating world. And I think that that is the way. That's how I have found balance in my life. I think that if you don't do that, it's very easy to get caught up in just what you see and the message that's being pushed to you and what everybody else is doing. So there's no shame or judgment in that, but the key is to just focus on within, stay in your own lane, don't look at what other people are doing and thinking that they are happy because of it.
I would like to say, when you want to think about what other people are doing, think about the smart people.
Yeah.
Right? Think about the people that are 40 years old, lying on a beach, retired, having a cocktail while you are slaving away in your 9 to 12 hour a day job.
And it's most likely that they're not sharing it all over social media, making a big fuss, making a big deal, because confidence is quiet. And happiness is personal. People keep it to themselves a lot of the time when they're happy. They're not going online and taking pictures of them in private jets and flashy cars and saying, look at me, I'm so happy, I'm living the life, I'm on top of the world, They are just staying with their family. They're taking the time to themselves, and maybe they're sharing a beautiful moment here or there, but it's just to capture it more for themselves than anything else.
Absolutely.
And share it with their closest family and friends to show them, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is what's happening with my life, kind of thing.
So when you guys want to splurge, when you don't really need to splurge, think of Kimberly and myself and little Gaby boy sitting on the beach in 10 years' time, retired, and living our lives.
Yeah.
Stress-free.
Spending our time as we wish, with small travel bags, because that actually saves a lot of energy and effort. So having a small travel bag that you can just take on board with you. All right. Should we get into today's episode?
Let's do it.
Are you ready to make finance fun?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
In 3, 2, 1.
Fun. Hello, Olivia. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you please introduce yourself and let us know the history that you have when it comes to financial education for children?
Hi guys. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's my first time doing this, so I am a bit nervous, but it's a subject that I feel very passionately about. So we're a mixed bag, really. I'm originally from Australia, born in Australia to Maltese immigrant parents, moved to the UK as all Australians do, A lot of Australians do.
And South Africans.
Yes, we're all there working in pubs. Picked up a British husband on the way. Then we moved to Kuwait. So that kind of started our lifelong passion with this region. We left, moved back to Europe, picked up a dog in Kuwait, off to Belgium, Mongolia in between, and then back to Belgium, where we acquired a child. Back to the UK, another child. Decided we want to be back in the Middle East, so Bahrain for 4 years, and now we're in the UAE. So it's been quite a journey.
Wow.
Do you still have the dog?
She passed away, actually. We had to leave her. She ended up moving in with my in-laws. We couldn't take her to Mongolia with us. It was just not the right place for her. But I'm glad that we've ended up back in the Middle East. So it's our third GCC country.
Yeah, it's the place to be right now.
Yeah. And I honestly, I just, I can't imagine leaving now.
Yeah.
You can't. So
Us
hard
too.
to leave that
Very
security.
difficult, right? I mean, we looked in the UK a few years ago. It just didn't make sense financially. It didn't make sense lifestyle wise. It didn't make sense in any really way, So,
Nothing against the UK, but the UAE is pretty unbeatable.
It is. My kids can just wander around and I know that they're safe. It's a city that was built to accommodate children, really. There's nothing you can't do here. So we moved to Bahrain and I just never really felt comfortable putting my children into the education system. They did go through nursery a little bit, but my eldest wasn't really ever interested in going and I couldn't quite figure out why. And then I just realized he was bored, and subsequently I just felt that he had something extra that he needed that school just wasn't giving him. And it turns out that he's autistic and gifted. So he just didn't learn in the traditional way that, that he was being taught. So he led me there. He was the one that showed me what he needed.
Yeah.
So we moved to Bahrain. We did find a school and then COVID hit, but it wasn't a straightforward process anyway, because the school could see straight away from his assessment that he needed something extra. So we went through the whole process of speaking to an educational psychologist and what have you. And that's what led to I don't like to say diagnosis of autism, because it's just a confirmation of his neurotype. And then they also assessed his, I don't like the word, but his IQ. He did half the assessment because he found it utterly boring and left. So
yeah. So
he's very much in charge of his own education and in charge of what he wants.
What's popping up for me is that you don't need a label to identify the types of kids who do get bored in those settings. They don't have to have a label. Maybe they never are labeled or diagnosed or whatnot, in inverted commas, diagnosed. And there are so many kids who are in that exact same position. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And I can relate to that because I was also very bored at school. And secondly, good on you for following your child, for following him, because a lot of parents think, well, they're just a child, they don't know, and that they know better. But we are all different. Human beings are all so, so different. So we never actually really do know. We have to let the child lead the way.
Absolutely. And if you just stand back and just watch them, they will show you what they need. So back in, early journey, part of motherhood, I used to follow a fantastic parenting expert called Janet Lansbury. And that was her philosophy, is we don't need bouncers to teach children to jump. We don't need walkers to teach them to walk. We've done this. Humans have done this since the beginning of time. Stand back. Watch your child. You don't need to entertain them with expensive toys and play pens. Just watch them. And I've applied that to their education. And I've applied that to, as they get older. I'm using that same philosophy. It's just stand back and just watch them and they will show you what they need.
Yeah. And our family bombards Gabriel with toys, obviously, because they love him so much. They're not in the same country. But he actually finds the everyday items far more entertaining than his toys.
You need a wooden spoon and a colander, and that's you're done.
And a water bottle. He loves water bottles, water machines.
And the most dangerous things he finds really enjoyable. So that's also not too great. But I love that you said that you do not need to really label these labels actually stand in the way of greatness, I feel, or the great people today, the billionaire, the millionaire, the guys that have created huge corporations, all of them either autistic or dyslexic. And I'm sure back in the day when they were at school, they were told, you are this, you are that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And that's probably the reason why they work today to prove a point.
Yeah.
So I love how you say you don't really need to label anyone. You know, we all human. We have certain things that we are good at, certain things we are not good at. And by labeling someone, you are kind of pushing them down. This is how I feel. I mean,
do you want to share your experience? Because he's speaking from experience.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking from experience. When I was at school, I was labeled dyslexic, and probably I was dyslexic in the term dyslexic, you know, but when you really think about it, as soon as I left school, I excelled. I never excelled in school. You know, I mean, I passed school and I got a university pass and all of that, but
they really tried to help him. So they got all this special help in. He had somebody writing for him. He had all the aid and assistance because obviously his parents thought that they were doing the very best for him, and they were doing the very best for him. But at the end of the day, how did it make you feel?
it made me feel smaller than everyone else. And I do think that it played a big part in my insecurities when I got older. However, being a few years out of school now, I can really start building that confidence. And now with this community, it's also helped me build to another level, the confidence level. And I would say that I'm probably one of the most confident people I know, especially around my work colleagues and stuff like that, because of what I've been building outside of the normal work life, the normal school life, the normal, boxes that we put ourselves in. So I love the whole point of not giving a child a label. I love that, because at the end of the day, why are you labeling that child this?
It's so much more nuanced than that. It's so much more nuanced than you have autism, you have dyslexia.
Instead of that, you say, let's find what you are great at.
And this is the thing. If a child is struggling in maths, for example, but excelling in art, the school will encourage the parents to get a maths tutor, when what they should be doing is getting an art coach or an art mentor. Because if a child's natural talent doesn't lay with music or lay in sport or lay in literature, then they're not the areas to be focusing on. As adults, we get to decide what interests us and what drives us. And when you give children the opportunity to drive their own learning, they will blow you away. My eldest son, we were talking about this the other day, and it's happened very organically. It's happened very naturally. But we've realized that his curriculum is 90% performing arts, because from a very young age, a lot of people noticed. He did stagecoach drama when he was 3, and it was very evident early on that he loves the stage, that he loves performing. And so now his curriculum is all geared towards performing arts. My younger son has an engineering brain. Give him a collection of Lego and he can build anything for you. The other day we were trying to build a box with a hinge, and I spent ages on YouTube trying to figure out what mechanism to use, which part is going to give me the hinge. And I turned around and he managed to achieve it in 5 seconds. That's how his brain works. So I'm not going to have him doing sort of more the academic stuff, which my eldest son loves. He wants to be cooking, he wants to be gardening, he wants to be building things.
Yeah.
And I just follow them. If you just sit back and watch them, it's absolutely incredible. I use swimming as an example with him. He didn't want a swimming coach. He was convinced that he could teach himself to swim. So I didn't push it. So one day he said to my husband, right, if you buy me a pair of goggles, I'm going to put my head under the water. And he did. And he spent a year just putting his head under the water and swimming at his level where he could touch the floor. And then we went away for a night in the summer on the World Islands. Highly recommend it. It's beautiful. And he just said, I'm going to swim in the deep end. And he did.
Wow.
He was following his intuition.
It was when he was ready.
Yes.
If I had forced him, he would have hated it. He would have developed a fear of water. And he decided in his own time. It was the same with phonics and reading. It's the same with maths.
Yeah.
You know, children learn what they need to learn when they need to learn it.
Yes.
And so people ask me so often, how do you teach your children? Like, but I'm not a teacher. I don't teach my children. I facilitate. I buy them the resources. I book them the classes that they're interested in. You know, so, Mum, I want to learn music. Right, let's explore that. And then you decide whether you want to carry on. I want to do trampolining. Let's do a trial. And then you decide. What we started doing at quite a young age, actually, was, okay, it'd be fun to start a little business. What can we do? And my youngest son loves dogs. So we found a Battersea, it was a Battersea dog's home recipe, made 3 ingredients, and we made them. And that was really interesting because that led us to learn about profit and loss, about marketing, about advertising. And as I mentioned, it's just, you find yourself in these really interesting rabbit holes. So then we started to learn about the powers of advertising. How do big brands advertise? So going back to the business, so, you know, we had to buy the ingredients. All right, let's cost out the ingredients. How much does it cost to make one biscuit? How much do you sell it for? So how much profit are we making? You know, the packaging, he designed his own logo. And then we went and just sold to the neighbors. And so what we do now is occasionally there are some pop-up markets. There are some markets which are just for children to sell things that they make.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they've done really well in that. And so exploring small business ideas is a lot of fun. It's a really great way to, an activity to connect with your children, but it also allows them to earn their own money.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes say if you want some money, okay, let's make some dog biscuits.
Yeah.
Because there is a place in Dubai and they've invited us to, we can just go and have a little stall on the weekends because there are a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
So exploring those business opportunities is great in so many ways, teaches so many skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it also teaches children, because these days, in 20 years' time, you're either going to be working for a huge corporation like Amazon, or you're going to be starting your own business.
Yeah.
And so giving them that opportunity, again, we come back to financial freedom, we come back to flexibility, developing those skills are really, really important.
Yeah.
And that's just a pragmatic, it's not very hard. It can just be selling bracelets or biscuits or, you know, something that your child is already interested in doing that. You can turn that into a small business for them.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So you'll do something at school and you'll do it for a day or you'll do it for a term and then it's never explored again.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, what we can do is, okay, we like something, we can explore it for a term or 2 terms or a year or 3 years, or we can do it for a day. You're not very interested and then we drop it. I'm strict on one thing, and whether they like it or not, they're going to learn Arabic. And my youngest one loves it. He's got a natural talent for languages. But I think it's an absolutely beautiful language.
Very
but it would
expressive.
be such a shame if they get to 20, they've lived here their entire life, and they don't know how to speak Arabic.
Yeah.
I think it's a real wasted opportunity. So that's the one thing that I'm adamant on. Everything else they can chew. They can dip in. We have a rule that if you sign up to something, you finish the term, because we want to still enforce that level of commitment and that level of obligation.
So when you say sign up to something, what are you signing up to?
So to a class. So for example, okay, so we're going to do drama for a term. So I've now paid for the term. We've signed up for the term. You need to see it through. If you halfway through, you decide that you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine. At the end of that, we just won't renew. But for example, so my eldest son, so he's autistic, he's got sensory issues, and he likes to go against the grain. So he did a term in school. He trialed a term and he got to school and all the boys were talking about Messi and Ronaldo and, you know, the World Cup. And he was like, oh, I hate it. I don't like it. So I'm going to be different. I'm going to do American football. And then I'm going to try and get everyone to like American football with me. So it was a big challenge for him. And I was so, so proud of him, because the whole sensory issues of the helmet and the gear and being whacked and tackling and all of that. And he struggled. He really, really struggled.
Yeah.
But he continued. And the goal was that you don't have to see this through and you don't even have to take part in every match, but you turn up and you see it through until the end of the term. And he did it. And the sense of accomplishment and the sense of achievement from the fact that he tried was enormous. Okay, it wasn't for him. Let's move on. Let's try basketball, because you don't have to wear the gear in basketball. So now he's doing basketball.
And there are so many lessons in that. And what I'm hearing when you speak about him, I'm hearing an entrepreneur spirit. Because he says, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to see if people can get on board and follow me, and I can set an example. I can lead the way, I can pave the way, I can make some change.
Exactly.
So I'm hearing the spirit of an entrepreneur, and it's so common that entrepreneurs are a little bit different in childhood. They feel a little bit different. You hear the same story with successful entrepreneurs, that they felt a little bit different in childhood, and they did their own thing, and it somehow just like worked out for them, you know, and they found their thing. And their people. They built a team that was like their people, that supported them and supported their vision and supported their goal, and that's what sets them apart, you know.
Absolutely.
For me, the biggest take from that is probably the determination. For example, for me, I've got crazy determination. At the age of 15 years old, I swam from Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was prisoner at, to the mainland. I was actually the youngest to ever do it. They told me I wasn't allowed.
Well,
so when they told me I wasn't allowed, I did a relay with 3 of my friends. So it was 4 of us. So we did a quarter each. I started, and by the time they told me, okay, it's time for you to come out, I said, no, I'm carrying on. And I finished the race.
Did you?
So...
And the mayor came running up to him and gave him a big hug when he came out the sea water.
So it's definitely the determination behind it is what I sense, you know, from the self-learning, from the letting the child lead the way. And from, I think, also being labeled something. You want to prove a point. And I think I would say that's probably the best thing that came from this, is the fact that I'm so determined to prove a point. So I get very far in what I do, what I love to do. And I can definitely sense this from what you were speaking about.
On the other end of the spectrum, when you were talking, I was getting cold shivers, and I was actually feeling emotionally moved, because for me, I was never like labeled as anything. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I was pushed into, oh, you're exceptional. You're better than the rest of the class. You can come first in class. You can do the best academically, and you can do the best in every other area too. Sports, theater, music, everything else. And I did not enjoy academics. I went to a private all-girls Catholic school, very strict. I didn't enjoy that environment. I was a creative at heart, still am, and absolutely loved performing arts. And that's where I thrived. I did extramurals after school, so I did hobbies. I did dancing, ballet, modern, tap dancing, you name it. And I did do all the competitions and everything, and that's where I thrived. And I thrived in the theater. I loved doing theatrical productions. In fact, Ross's brother and I were together, the only children in one of the theatrical productions when we were 10 years old.
Wow.
Funny enough. We were the only children. It was through his auntie. She was my ballet teacher, actually, his auntie. But I get cold shivers because the teachers and my mother, not so much my father, but my mother came down very hard on me out of frustration that I had so much potential, in inverted commas, in academics, and they saw some other future for me, I guess, than what I felt in my heart. And they would really push me towards mathematics and academics, and the teachers, I remember they had a meeting with my parents, all of them, and they told them, you're wasting your money with this school because she's not trying, she doesn't care, and they really made me feel like a very bad person. I was very badly shamed for that. However, I knew that I just was not going to use those skills. I knew I did not enjoy it. And I'm not going to use it. I'm going to follow my heart. I am a person who follows my intuition, my emotion, my heart, my passion. I've always been, and I always will be that way. So if I was given the opportunity to follow drama, theatrical pursuits, and performing arts, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about this this week with my son, and it is exhausting because it's driving from place to place, and a class here and a class here. It was school is you just go and everything is just in one place. And I said to him, so all the activities that you're doing, are generally hobbies after school. So you do your 7 hours of school and then you go to your drama class or your music class. I said, but what we've done is we've just ditched the 7 hours. And so now you're filling your day with hobbies.
That was my dream. At school, I was fantasizing about what I loved
So
to do.
just imagine being given free reign, 7 hours a day, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, where you can just write, where you can practice your music, where you can, he's sitting his Trinity College exam next month. So he's practicing his monologue. He's writing a monologue. He's working with a playwright in the UK who writes scripts for the BBC.
Wow.
And so he's writing his own script at the age of 10, like a movie script.
Oh.
And so he can just dedicate all of his time to that. We do very, very little academics and we try and get out as much as possible. There's a big homeschooling community in the UAE, in Dubai. So we do a lot of play dates. We were at the park all day yesterday, for example. And next week we'll be at the park and the beach all day. And, so it's just about education doesn't have to be a chore. Education isn't something that children need to wake up in the morning and go, I've got to go and sit at a desk for 7 hours.
And I'll tell you, when I was sitting at that desk, I was constantly feeling, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
This is not the place for me. I'm just going to shut down and not listen because I'm meant for other things. This is not meant for me. And this feeling was so strong. I just knew it. As a child, your intuition is very strong. And that's how I felt the entire time. So I did shut down.
Yeah.
And eventually I burnt out, honestly, because you're getting thrown so many things at you that are just not for you.
It's
and
exhausting.
You're being pushed towards it. It's exhausting and you do burn out eventually because your heart is in another place and that energy should be going towards something that is your path and in line with you as an individual.
And it's all very natural. And people think that homeschooling is this new movement. Homeschooling is something that came about from COVID. We are pre-COVID homeschoolers, I have to add. So it wasn't something we were pushed into. It was something that I just felt was the right fit for our family.
Yeah.
But homeschooling isn't a new movement. Actually, formal education, in the grand scheme of things, is a new movement because we have always just learnt from the adults around us and from the environment around us.
And from nature. There's so much nature can also teach us about ourselves.
Exactly. So it just feels natural. It feels organic. We just follow our instincts and they lead the way.
I love that.
It's beautiful. It really is, because we can speak for days on this because it's something that we speak about all the time, Kim and myself.
We're passionate about it.
And we are thinking of what we're going to do for Gabriel. The time hasn't come yet, so we've got some time to still think about it and ponder.
You have plenty of time, and I see so many posts up on various groups saying, my child is 3 or 4, I want to homeschool. What do I do? You don't need to homeschool at 3 and 4. We started really between 7 and 8.
And that's the age they normally go to school.
Yeah.
Not preschool, but normally go to a real school. 7 years old. I think that was the age I started school, 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
7
if
or
they're
8.
with you all day and they've joined lots of groups, meet lots of other families, days at the beach, board games, cooking, gardening, traveling, that's all part of a child's education.
Yes.
That's where they get their wisdom from.
Absolutely.
And skills.
Skills.
Our child is not walking yet. Gabriel's not walking yet. And some children his age are running. However, he's doing other things excellently, probably much better than any other child, So it's all about things that certain children excel in, and we're not going to force him to do.
No.
He crawls better than any baby I've ever seen. He's so stern.
But
you can't even push him.
I want to just insert here that it's not about comparison. Everybody is different. It's so funny because we have these little units of measurement. We measure the children on, they crawl at this age. They crawl so fast. But it's not about that. It's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
And it's just about the child following their path, following their journey,
Exactly.
and not comparing to anybody else. And I think that that is the lesson in this, is that when there's a classroom of kids and they're measuring them by certain standards, teaching them selected things, that's when I think things go a little bit wrong and don't feel right. And I think that there are kids in that environment who can feel it, especially highly sensitive children.
Yes.
Can feel this isn't right. There's something, I don't want to really participate, something shutting down in me, you know? And I think that parents make the mistake of wanting their kids to be better than other kids because that means that they're going to have a better future. That means that they're not going to struggle. However, and that's all good intentions, and that's what's conditioned into us. However, it's actually doing them harm because we're using society's units to measure whether our kids are worthy, whether they're going to have a difficult time in the world. Whereas we should be facilitating, as you said,
Absolutely.
just simply facilitating where their intuition leads them.
Absolutely. Those measurements start from such a young age. The motivation is completely external. So I need to please my teacher. I need to get all the stars on my reward chart to get my golden time at the end of the week. I need my parents to be proud of my report card because then I get a treat and then I get... So the motivation is not internalized. The motivation is about pleasing others. It's
Yes.
about getting the stars. It's about getting the certificate.
Yes.
And I think that is a really, really damaging start to their education, to their career. Your motivation needs to be internal. So when you get to choose what you're studying, when you get to choose what you're working on, you're already motivated
Yeah.
because you've made that decision. No one else has done it for you.
And as parents, we just want our kids to be happy, well-adjusted adults. And when they are internally motivated, they have the best chance of being happy and well-adjusted in adulthood.
Absolutely.
Because then they are no longer trying to keep up with society's expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I heard this fantastic, I'm addicted to TED Talks, and there are some brilliant ones around education. And there was this TED Talk by this young girl, like I can't remember the details, but her opening line was, everyone asks us what we want to be when we grow up, but no one asks us if we just want to be happy.
Yeah.
Everything is linked to what do you want to be when you grow up? We're asking 5-year-olds this. What do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't decided what I want to be yet. I haven't decided what job is going to pay my bills just yet. I just want
Yeah.
to be happy. And luckily, this generation is more aware of that. And
Yes.
they're not growing up thinking, well, I have to have this huge mortgage and this big house and there's lots of things. And I'm going to be tied to a job that I don't like for 30 years because I need,
That's getting old.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right now. And for us, homeschooling is giving us that opportunity to explore financial independence, to explore a different way of how you're going to live your life in 20. We don't even know actually what jobs are going to be around in 20 years' time.
Yeah.
No one knows that yet, but they are discovering more and more what kind of skills are needed for that.
On that point, financial literacy for children. Let's touch base on this. How important do you think that is for the educational system? Because, for example, when I went to school, I don't remember any talk about financial literacy. I remember talking about these math sums that will never, ever help me in life.
No.
This squared over this, over that. For me, it would never, ever help anyone unless you are an architect, I would say.
Yeah. Certain career paths. Yeah.
Exactly. But let's bring it back to children and financial literacy. How do we really teach them the right way when it comes to financial literacy, but not burden them of all of the mortgages and the negative side of being financially secure?
I can't comment too much on how the formal education system addresses this because, like I said, my kids have been in school for a term. But again, going back to doing this in a very kind of intrinsic way, I remember when my son was 3, and he didn't have much concept of money, right? So what I did is I created this poster for him. So we were living in the UK at the time. So he was getting like £1.50 a week pocket money, which I would give to him in 50 pence coins. So I created a chart for him and just draw a diagram. It's like 50p goes to saving, 50p goes to spending, then 50p goes to giving. And so every time he would get 50p, 3 jars, 50p, and then he would sort of tick it off. And it was just creating a visual chart for him. Taking your children shopping to see, right, well, we can buy a branded packet of biscuits for $2 and we can buy an unbranded one, which most likely tastes the same, for $1. So you're a role model for them. You're just providing real life experience. We then started to, I can't even remember the exact order because it's not something I sat down and thought, okay, now you're 5, we need to learn about this. Now you're 7 and we need to learn about this. Because we homeschool and they're with me 24 hours a day, everything I do, from shopping to doing a budget to meal planning to just recently looking for somewhere to live, they've been a part of the process. I'll give you an example. We've been house hunting, so looking for somewhere to rent. And so we looked at various areas. So we had to sit down and weigh up the pros and cons. So like, okay, we could live in area A, which is going to cost this much, and it's going to mean that we spend more time commuting. It's going to mean that we don't have access to, downtown Dubai or Dubai Marina. Everywhere's going to take a little bit longer to get to. But it means that we have money for other things. Or we could live in a more central location, which means that we can't just spend money in the way we have been spending money.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to align. We need to allocate that money in a different way. So even though they're 10 and 7, they still understand that concept. So we sat down as a family. I'm like, okay, where we live is almost going to determine what kind of lifestyle we have and how we spend our money, because obviously one is more expensive than the other. Yeah. And they came to the conclusion that we like being close to where the action is. So we're going to give up the snacks, the treats, the Lego sets. We're going to consciously, as a family, do that in order to have the apartment that we want, in the area that we want, and with the lifestyle that we want. So it doesn't need to be very scripted. It doesn't need to be very predetermined. Again, and I know I sound like a broken record now, but it just happens very naturally.
Yeah,
it happens very organically.
Because the goal is to give them the skills for adulthood. And so it just makes sense that they're following what you're doing in your everyday life, the decisions that you're making, because that's eventually going to be what they're going to have to do.
Exactly.
And I remember as a child thinking, because a lot of people say, oh, this is not the kind of thing for a child to be a part of. I know that a lot of listeners might be thinking that. And I remember, because I have very vivid memories from a very young age for some reason. I think it's because I'm a deep feeler and feelings are connected to memories. So the deeper you're feeling, the more you remember. And I remember from a very young age. And I remember thinking as a child that I was kind of playing dumb, because adults were looking at me that way, like I don't understand things. And so to the adults, it probably looked like I didn't understand things, but I was understanding. And I knew that I could be a part of some of the activities that the adults were doing and some of the conversations that the adults were having. And I was just pretending that I wasn't understanding. So I always give children more credit. I'm thinking they do understand, they do want to partake. And my mother actually said when I was 2 years old, I used to come and sit at the adults table. Ross knows this. I used to come sit at the adults table to be a part of their conversations rather than playing with the children, because they would send the children away to go and play. So from that memory, I understand that these are actually appropriate activities for children, or is activities the right word? These are appropriate things for children to get involved in. Conversations.
Yeah. We don't need to burden them with, for example, they don't know what income we make. They don't know how much interest we're paying on the mortgage. They don't need to be burdened with issues that we worry about. You know, the cost of living is increasing. But again, we can have conversations like, okay, we're going into the store today and this biscuit or this whatever that you like is a little bit expensive. So we're going to have it as a treat. It's not something that you have every week, but just like we treat ourselves as adults, this is your treat. So something I started with my children actually was, because we're out and about a lot, there's that constantly, I'm hungry. And I just, and the snack box that I've bought with me in the house is already gone. So they always they want a packet of Maltesers, or they want a Kinder Surprise, And so we started this routine where it's like, I buy your first treat of the week and then you get 10 dirhams. Now, how you choose to spend that 10 dirhams is up to you. You can buy another treat, or you could forego that treat. Because let's face it, you probably don't really want that treat. But because mummy's paying for it, then it's okay. Yeah. But now it's your money. So now it's up to you to determine. I'm not saying don't buy anything. Yeah. I'm just saying you get to decide how to spend that money. And same with going to a theme park. Theme parks are so expensive. And then you get to the gift store because you can't leave without walking through the gift store, right? So we set a pre-allocated amount. It's like, here's 100 dirhams or 50 dirhams or whatever. Now, how you spend that money is up to you. You have some extra money in your bank account from their pocket money. If something is more than 100 dirhams, you add that money. And I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, they don't want to spend that money. Because that money is now sitting in their wallet.
They want to keep it
instead of spending it.
Yeah. Do they have bank accounts?
So they have bank accounts. And I've also set up, obviously it needs to be under my name, but I've set up kind of little separate accounts, sub-accounts in Sarwa trading platform. So when they have a certain amount of money in their bank account, I say, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to keep it there, or do you want to invest it? And so we've invested in some diversified funds, and then we check it once a week to see how it's doing. And they've become quite competitive. Who's making more money, But again, they understand that you have money can sit in your bank account and not do very much. And I remember my dad saying to me when I was younger, you have to make your money work for you.
Yeah.
So sitting in a bank account isn't really going to do much. Now, if you put it into investments, let's have a look at compound interest. Let's have a look at how it's growing. Let's have a look at how the share price is increasing. Or if you make X amount, you can sell it and just buy more shares. Let's have a look at dividend payments, dividend reinvestment. It's not too early to have those conversations with them. And in fact, there was a study done by Cambridge University, and it was found that lifelong money patterns are established by elementary school. So by second grade, or around the age of 7, the way children save and spend and view money by the age of 7 has already been established.
Wow.
And so to think that in the UK, financial literacy is something that comes in to a deeper level in secondary school, but money habits have already been formed by then.
Incredible.
That's really...
You would never think, that would never cross your mind, that
Absolutely.
You're instilling it in them from such a young age. And you have to be careful about the way you talk about money around your children.
Absolutely. Because you don't want to scare them.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to think that they can't spend money.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad was quite frugal when we were growing up, but in a kind of very pragmatic way. So he's saying, okay, we don't have to spend X amount to eat out every week, but I'm happy to spend this amount on a holiday for 4 months. The small bits that you don't notice, the spending here, the snack here, and the treat there, and the toy here, and the gadget there, and adds up to a family holiday. You're not going to remember the snacks and the treats, but you are going to remember that holiday. And so I do very much like my dad's approach to money, in that I will be frugal where I can be. I'm happy to be extravagant where I can be. I'm happy to go on an Alaskan holiday and book the great cabin with the view. But, I can drive a car that's 20 years old.
Yeah.
So it's just about the way you spend money.
The snacks and treats are my downfall.
That's a big,
On my side, when I look at my personal lifestyle, the way that we grew up, one of my parents were pretty frugal with money, and the other one was a complete opposite. So it's funny the way that I think chose the more frugal side of things. I would say I'm a bit stingy with my money.
Very.
That's what my wife says. She likes to put me in line when it comes to this. And Kimberly is actually the opposite. Okay. So we have almost formed the same dynamic that I've had in my childhood. And I think it's been the same on your side, right?
My parents were both not frugal.
Oh, okay.
But My mum was in some ways with specific things, but other than that, no. She was quite extravagant, and she spent a lot on us also, which makes me in my adulthood feel that I should be doing that, you know. But I don't trust myself with managing the money. I trust him with managing the money. So it's interesting that this is instilled in you from like since the age of 7.
So by the age of 7, you've already established your money habits, the way you spend, the way you save, the way you view money.
Yeah.
I can say for me, that's true because I've never changed that.
Yeah. But I think when it comes to the way that I grew up, I think that I went for the more extreme approach. And I think that's what normally happens when you have two parents that are complete opposites of something. You normally tend to migrate to the more extreme side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's so important to teach your children from a young age how to manage their money.
Yeah.
100%.
So, for busy parents out there that might be working full time, but they're listening and they are interested in educating their children with financial literacy, for example, how do they go about starting?
There are some amazing resources out there available. If you just go onto Amazon and, type in financial literacy for children, there are some fantastic books. So one of the books that we really are enjoying reading, which we started not that long ago, is called Grandpa's Fortune Fables. And so it's talking about money. We've just kind of into the 3rd chapter or so, but it's using a story to get the message across.
Oh, wow.
So children don't like to constantly be lectured and, so it's wrapping it up in a very nice story. So the child's granddad goes off to an island where there's, promise that you're going to find gold. Come to our island and you'll find a pot of gold and you'll be a millionaire. So he turns up and I don't want to give too much of it away, but he realizes that it's not, as we know, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So he turns up and he realizes it's too good to be true. So they're given fruit as an allowance for their meal for the week. And so what he does is he keeps the seeds of the fruit, allocates some to keeping as seeds, and he plants it. And then he starts his own venture with the little that he has.
I love that.
And so it's a wonderful story. And so it talks about one of the lessons in there is what does it mean to be wealthy as opposed to what does it mean to be rich? So you can have money and spend it, and you can have the flash car and you can have the big house and you can have the designer bags. But what does it mean to be wealthy? And so wealthy,
passing it on, feeling comfortable, feeling you can spend your time as you wish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of great lessons wrapped up in a really good story. There's other books, so a couple that I've got here, and I'm happy to kind of post links if that helps. But, there's more kind of factual books. There's a book by DK called How Money Works, and it talks about money, not just the money that we have in our bank accounts and not just the money, but how does money make the world go round? How are interest rates set? What is inflation? What does inflation mean for us at a micro level? So recently we just went into this rabbit hole of the stock market. So it's not like the world has one big stock market. There's the New York Stock Exchange. There's the UK, China, Japan, Hong Kong, Australia. So what does that mean? How can you buy shares?
I need to
from
read this
different
book.
countries?
Yeah.
What is a stock? What does having a stock mean? We listen to a lot of podcasts when we're traveling in the car.
Great.
So again, even if your kid's at school and you want to supplement their financial literacy, just read some books, listen to podcasts, and go down that rabbit hole. I promise, once you plant that small seed, your children will just want to know more and more and more. And I just find that I just sit back and they start doing the research.
Yeah.
And I'm learning alongside them because I don't know 90% of this stuff,
Yeah.
right? So there was a podcast where the presenter was saying when he was very young, his grandmother asked him, what's one of your favorite companies? And it was McDonald's or Disney or whatever it was. And she said, as a Christmas present, I'm going to buy you a share in your favorite company because now I have your interest. Now I've captured your imagination. So what does this mean? Now this means you own, even if it's one share, but you own a part of that company,
Yeah.
And so
It sets the child on a path because it triggers something in their mind where they're fantasizing.
now they're interested. Now it's something, it's not tangible in that you can hold it, but now it means something in the mind of a child.
Yeah.
And so, for example, we went to visit a friend once, and dad is a trader. The husband is a trader. And so my son was interested in seeing how it all works on the computer, you know, big office, big computer screens everywhere. And my son loves video games. Interestingly, not so much. He likes playing them, but he loves learning about, again, thanks to homeschooling, he can spend hours researching the companies, researching the development of the game. He follows the marketing of the game. Wow. He follows the coding of the game. How is it scripted? Mm-hmm. He will research the company developing it. So he sat at the screen and he said, right, okay, so give me some of your favorite companies. Right, so it's Sony and a few other kind of gaming companies. And he looked at the chart and he was able to tell this trader where the dips and the rises, how they were caused.
Oh, he knew what was going on in the company at the time.
Just by looking at the graph.
Oh, wow.
Because he had an interest in the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So, okay, so one video game is releasing Grand Theft Auto 6 coming up. Okay, so let's have a look at their stock prices. Now let's have a look at the news, and every day follow the news. When do you think it's going to go up and down?
This example is beautiful because most people, they approach it as, I need to make money. Now I need to do the research and I need to see what the company is doing in order to make money. But now it's coming authentically. Mm-hmm. First, his interest is in the company itself and the workings of the company and the inner life of the company. And it's not about the money. It's not reversed. Mm-hmm. And when that's first your interest, the research is so authentic and you know so much more just naturally. Yeah. And therefore, the making money comes secondary, but the skill is already there, so rich and so robust that you actually do a lot better at the making the money part.
Absolutely. You know? That naturally follows.
Yes.
And another thing I'd say about what we love about homeschooling is just the time and the space and the flexibility we have to dive deep into whatever subject we're interested at the time. You know, so for him, he loves esports and he's planning on actually developing an esports team, building an esports team. So this is just research that he's just interested in. So it's not like I've set him a task and said, go and research these companies for me. It's just something that he's just taken an interest in and followed. Another thing that through real life examples is currency. And all of our children now are going to be traveling between this country, and some of us have more than one home country as we do. So the concept of currency is not something that we need to sit down and go, right, this is what currency exchange means. It just happens naturally.
Yeah.
So, right, we're going to Australia. 1 dirham equals X amount in dollars or X amount in pounds or X amount in euros. You know, it's just something that's already ingrained in them, particularly as expat children, right?
Yeah. So when you were in Bahrain, you were teaching other children.
So what we did actually, I saw a need. We wanted to sort of explore more the world of financial literacy, but I did need a little bit of guidance. So we had a great homeschooling co-op, and thanks again to Facebook, I put out a search and someone got back to me. And he was a financial trainer in the workforce. That was his job. That's what he did on a professional level. And he was really interested. So he developed a course for us. We did a workshop over a space of, I think it was about 3 weeks. And it covered the basics. It covered how do we earn money? How do we save money? How do we spend money? How do we invest money? And that was a really good lead into everything else that kind of catapulted us onto the higher stuff. And I think schools maybe cover this as well, but it's just the very bare bones.
Yes.
You know, and then that inspired us to delve further. And we would have continued and developed the course further, but then we left Bahrain.
Yeah.
But what I do love doing is we worked with a financial expert in the field. And what I do love doing, again, with our homeschooling is working with professionals.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, my son
real life experience.
Exactly. My son had a deep deep interest in paleontology for about 9 years. He still loved dinosaurs. So I sought out a paleontologist who guided me on what kind of areas to explore. My younger son loves cooking, so he did cooking classes with a chef. You know, again, we're using a playwright for creative writing. Their drama coaches are in-work actors. So we just bring in as many professionals into our homeschooling as we can.
And you find that they're willing to partake and they're willing to get involved?
A lot of the ones that we have found are already offering their services, tutoring services.
Okay.
But I have found also, I cornered a data scientist the other day in the lift.
Okay.
My eldest son was talking, he saw some headline on the news and so he was talking about, you know, some sort of new data laws and protection laws in the US. And the poor guy said, oh, well, I'm a data scientist. And I was like, that's it. I'm really sorry. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to have to take your number because...
You have to take the chance.
And he was keen because a lot of these people in these industries are so passionate about what they do.
Yes.
Correct.
They're looking for people to talk about it too because they don't have people to talk to about it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so my husband and my children constantly roll their eyes at me and get really annoyed because if I find someone interesting in a role that I think would really interest either my children or other children in the homeschooling group, then I love to just get them on board and say, right, well, we're just going to do a workshop or we're just going to a mentoring session or something. Yeah. And I do find that the response is very positive.
Great. Well, that's your role in all of this too, you know, and you're doing a great job at it, at facilitating.
Exactly.
And making sure that they have the best opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so many people say to me, they need to go to school because they need to experience the real world. There's this weird notion that home should be uncomfortable and school should be inviting, you know. And in fact, when they're learning, I'm learning because most of the stuff, how much do we remember from school?
Very little.
You know?
Very little.
So, but a lot of the things I'm now interested in learning. So we learn together.
Yeah.
And we listen to podcasts together and we watch movies together. So there's a lot of amazing movies you can watch. We watched Bridge Over the River Kwai the other day, which led us down a whole rabbit hole of researching what happened during that time.
I'm obsessed with like Jane Austen movies and things like that.
And they're fun to they're great to watch with children. And my son is big into film and theatre, so he does comment a lot on the lack of visual imagery and the, you know, God, that's so 1980s, Mum.
Yeah. You said you listen to podcasts. Do you listen to Stephen Bartlett?
Yes, I like him.
We have a surprise coming with Stephen Bartlett. So stay tuned.
So Stephen Bartlett is coming to Dubai soon. Kimberly actually bought me a ticket to go see him on the 21st. It was a surprise, and it was probably the best surprise I've ever received.
Awesome.
So I'm going to go to the Coca-Cola Arena and I'm going to watch Stephen Bartlett, which is really cool because we literally watch him every day on YouTube. However, there is another surprise that's coming soon. We have not confirmed anything yet.
It's confirmed, but not fully sealed. So our lips are sealed.
Everyone stay tuned.
I'm going to be watching this space. I absolutely love him.
We also do. We are huge fans. I listen to him almost every day. When I have a free moment, I have him playing in the background.
Yes. I find his voice really soothing as well.
So soothing.
And the questions he asks are on point. He's just so wise.
Yeah.
I will probably be like a little fangirl, you know, trying to jump on the stage so I can tell him to come and be a guest in the UAE Grow Your Finances podcast, you know.
We'll do our best.
Are you the equivalent of a Swiftie?
Exactly. Probably get arrested, but you know, it's all worth it for the community.
He seems like a cool guy. He'll buy you a coffee.
True. So after speaking about all of this, it's definitely opened my mind. It's, I'm sure, opened Kimberly's mind as well to what we are thinking of doing with Gabriel when he gets older. We have not made up our mind yet. However, we do want to make sure that all of his greatness is made to good use and not, I would say, pushed down
and put him in a box so that he can't release that greatness.
Or
But for-
explore that greatness.
Exactly. And for the other parents out there that perhaps have not really thought about this topic, what is a message that you would like to leave for them?
So one thing I'm just going to, in response to what you've said, and I say this to new homeschoolers when they say, well, how do I start? And I'll say, you don't have to do anything. Just watch him. He will tell you.
Okay.
He will tell you exactly what he wants. He will show you exactly what he enjoys. And so when I first started with my children, I sat down for hours and I created timetables and curriculums and so much work. And I didn't use any of that because they showed me what they need to do.
So less doing, more being present, which
Absolutely.
is a challenge for many people in this world today. We're bombarded with notifications, things to do, endless admin tasks. So it's just about
Exactly.
practicing being present
Exactly.
and watching. Okay.
I love that
Exactly.
because actually when we watch Gabriel, we just watch him do what he wants to do and not confine him and make sure he doesn't jump off the couch. He definitely shows us to what he wants to do all the time. Like,
Yeah.
every single time he does what he wants to do and he cries until he gets that, which is great. He has that power, that fire to get what he wants at
And
all
you've
costs.
enabled him to do that. You've given him
Yeah.
you've given him the space to do that.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, as much as we can, we do.
As long as it's not dangerous.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to step in if he's going to throw himself off
Yeah.
the playground somewhere.
Yeah.
He likes to actually fall back off the steps. He goes to the first step or the second step and then he falls back.
He likes to just throw himself back and fall. But he's exploring the feeling of falling.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's
to him.
all experimenting.
Yeah.
I just need to keep you safe. That's
Yeah.
my job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this because there's no two homeschooling families who have the same approach to education. And even within a family, no two children will have the same approach to their homeschooling.
Yes.
So I guess this is twofold. For anyone considering homeschooling, first of all, forget what you experienced or what people experienced during COVID. That wasn't homeschooling. That was distance learning.
Yes.
And that's a totally different ballgame.
Yes.
Homeschooling, home education, unschooling is something completely different. It's aligned with your children's interests. It's aligned with your family's values. It's aligned with your family's schedule. So some people spend half a year in one country and half a year in the other country. Our timetable in the winter is different to the timetable in the summer. And then again, plans go out the window because, it's a nice day and we're going to hit the beach instead of doing what we had planned to do. So
Yeah.
it's not as difficult as people think it is. It's time consuming. It's absolutely time consuming. And as a parent, you will have very little to no time to yourself. So
Yeah.
that's something you've really got to think about. Your children will always be there, but there are benefits to that as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of the financial literacy, even if your children are at school, it's something that can be adopted, can be done on a day-to-day basis. Children are aware. Children have so much information at their fingertips now.
Yeah.
Children are able to access so much information that in some ways it's scary, actually.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's our job to guide them. We're very strict on social media. There's no access to social media in my family.
That's good.
There is no access to unsupervised devices. And part of the benefit of homeschooling is that there isn't as much exposure to what other people are watching.
Correct.
So my advice would be just watch your child, follow their lead. You know what their interests are. You know what they're capable of. Involve them in day-to-day meal planning, budgeting, in very age-appropriate ways, of course. Give them their own money to decide. My son is designing the gaming corner in his bedroom. He's been allocated a certain amount of funds. So how he chooses to spend that money is now up to him.
Yeah.
He can blow all his money on a gaming chair and then he doesn't have any of the other things that he wants.
Yeah.
But that they can make decisions for themselves. We just have to facilitate and support that.
And let them make mistakes.
Absolutely. My son's already lost money on the stock market.
Yeah, that's hard as a parent
Yeah.
to let the
Haven't we all though, right?
I can imagine that would be a challenge for me because when you said blowing all his money on a gaming chair, I would want to step in and be like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Rather do this, rather spend on a nice desk and then get
Yeah.
like a medium priced gaming chair. But you have to let them make those mistakes. It's part of the learning.
Exactly. And there have been some things that he's bought and then realized afterwards that it wasn't really worth the money. So next time I'm going to think more about how I allocate my funds.
And a lot of parents would, in that situation, come down hard on the child and say, you see, you shouldn't have bought that. I told you shouldn't have bought that. That was a waste of money. Do you know how hard we work for our money? And really, what it does is it blocks them from feeling their own feelings associated with that and learning their own lesson internally associated with that. And I know for me, that would be my challenge, because I would feel like I need to teach the child from my experience. I know, you know,
all of our wisdom.
I could have told you, you know, so I can imagine that being a challenge. So that's something that we're taking, I'm taking in from this conversation. And the other thing that was crossing my mind when you said it's very time consuming, it takes a lot of your time, especially in the UAE, because I would imagine that if you're living with your family, for example, you could have the help of your mother, mother-in-law, other family members. His mother's actually in education.
Been in it her whole life.
And in fact, she changes up the way they educate in the preschool.
Okay.
Yeah, she makes it fun. She
tries to make learning interactive. They have a vegetable garden. They have a gardener come teach them. Yeah. So she makes it more exploratory and natural. And
she fights for it.
They do have cooking lessons. They do all sorts of activities. They have cooking lessons there, all sorts of
Sounds like homeschooling.
Yeah.
In a school environment, which is a dream.
So I was thinking, if we were to take this route and we lived in our home country, we would have help, you know, we would have help because she's passionate about it. So it doesn't have to be time consuming if you have that help. But obviously as the mother or the father, you know your child best. And
absolutely. So, absolutely. There is a fantastic homeschooling community in the UAE, very active.
That's amazing.
We have Sports Day and the International Day and
amazing.
I didn't know that at all, and I'm sure a lot of people just
we need to join.
It's
don't know.
There are various ways that you can homeschool. Some people have online schooling, which is following a curriculum, be it from the UK or the US, and you get your transcript at the end. And it's basically just like school, but online. We err more towards something called unschooling. So, which sounds really scary at first, because you've got to do what they call deschooling. So everything you know about the education system, the grading, the tests, the exams, you've got to just let that go. And it's really, really difficult, because no matter how much you try, there's always in the back of your mind, but they haven't done a book report. I haven't tested them to see if they know this. So you've got to de-school yourself first in order to unschool them. And unschooling is just a fancy word for doing normal day-to-day things. So we're going to go furniture shopping on the weekend because we need to buy furniture. They're going to be a part of that process. One of them very begrudgingly. It's about going to the supermarket and doing the food shop. It's about going to the beach and hanging. It's just living life. They're just not in school.
Yeah.
But it's called unschooling.
Learning through life experience.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what I felt I needed to do when I was at school. I used to always literally say to my parents, I want to learn rather through life experience. Yes. I don't want to study. I don't want to spend my afternoon studying. I want to learn through life. And they looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah. But you need to be in a building with a desk.
I think back in the day, the parents would look at you like this, you know?
Yeah.
But today things are changing in a big way. I think still for me personally, because my mom and my grandma have been in the educational system for their whole lives, it's a bit scary for me to take all the tests and the examinations and all of that away from the
It is scary.
But I think it could be very, very good.
So one of the things that we're trying to achieve by giving them the opportunity to invest their money is talking about financial freedom. So my dad used to talk to me about stocks and shares, but we didn't actually do anything practical towards it. It was just talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, I wish I had started investing when I was 10.
Me too.
You know, and I tell my children that if you start investing now at the age of 10 and 7, I mean, they already have some shares. My dad, when they were born, said, well, instead of buying you toys and what have you, I'm going to buy them shares. And then that's going to grow over the
Very
next
good.
20 years.
Yeah.
My father-in-law is the same. He used to give us money to invest in shares for them. But this is their money and they're watching it grow. Now, how amazing would it be by the age of 30 to have passive income? We're so driven by the salary, right? So we look at the salary and we think, right, I need to earn this much to live the lifestyle that I want to live. Now, once you get to that, you want more. And then you have to maintain that. How amazing would it be to have passive income that will keep you going, will pay for your date, pay for your mortgage, pay for your bills. And you can take a job that goes, well, do you know what? It's about half or even less than what I should be on to achieve the lifestyle I want. But because I have this income, I have the freedom to move between jobs, to start my own business.
Yeah.
It's just about providing that financial security for them, that they can live the life they want to live.
And when you have that freedom, your life force energy is flowing and things just happen for you. Like you start that business without the fear.
Without
the fear doesn't
that's
hold
holding
you back. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What did Kevin O'Leary say, Mr. Wonderful? He said, salary is a drug that they give you when they want you to forget your dreams.
Salary is a drug that they give you when they want you to forget your dreams. Do you want to come say something?
Yeah, sure.
So what is it that you love about unschooling?
So what I do like about it is I do have a lot of classes, but these are classes that I want to do. These are classes that I'm passionate about, not classes that are set for me.
Yeah.
For instance, I do drama, but if I was in school, I wouldn't have as much time to focus on that or do that because I would also be worrying about classes and stuff.
Yeah.
I do basketball and I do music, I do trampolining, I do everything.
And how does it make you feel that you're able to do all of these things?
Well, it makes me feel good. I mean, my mum has told me if there's sometimes anything that you want to drop, I can drop it. Really, it just makes me feel good that I have the freedom to do all this.
Yeah. And what are you very passionate about currently?
Well, I do love video games, but I also love researching them and the background of how they're made, and I have a coding class once in a while. Yeah.
Wow, you are a smart boy. How old are you?
10. 10.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast.
You're welcome.
Do you have any plans for what you want to eventually do? Maybe in the summer? Maybe do you have any plans for?
In the summer, well, we're going to my aunt's wedding.
Okay.
And
That's cool. Where's your aunt's wedding?
England, so not exactly a...
But you'll be traveling.
Yeah, I'll be traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
And we look forward to following your journey, seeing what happens with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'd love to check in every now and then, see what you're up to. We're interested. We truly are. We have a little baby boy. So
Yeah.
So
I've seen him.
Yeah, you saw him outside.
Yeah, outside.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to add that we want to make this a theme. We want to explore this topic more. We want to explore the topic of financial literacy and financial education for kids more. So we will be delving into this more, and we will be keeping in touch with you and working on things. That's a little...
We've had a few ideas bouncing around,
Yeah.
which
Yes,
I watch.
working on some things for the community, for other people who are interested in this for their children, and especially busy parents, because we have a lot of busy parents on our group who are trying to make their money work for them in this country and, you know, make the most of it. And so we are interested and passionate about developing some tools and assistance in this area.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, no promises for the near future, because we, as you know, are busy ourselves, very, very busy, but it is a passion, it is an interest, and it is something that's authentic for us as parents of a young son. We'll also be exploring this area. So we look forward to it authentically and naturally unfolding and having you in our space and working together or just exploring together.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
We can do some great things.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
joining.
much
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having us.
Wow, what a powerful episode. And, you know, for someone that is a first-time father with a beautiful, beautiful baby boy, who all you really want to do in life is set him or her up for the future, to make sure that they are successful, to make sure that they are happy, to make sure that they are content. This episode really does heighten a way of doing that.
Yeah.
And it's super exciting to know that there are ways like this out there, and not just let's just all just focus in this box and not look outside, you know?
For me personally, what is most important to me is that he has the opportunity to do what he chooses to do in his life. And I think that we mistakenly close that off for our children without knowing it, without being aware of it, just because we're following a system. And that system caters for certain children. And that's not a bad thing, because we need the doctors, the lawyers, etc. And certainly they need mainstream education channels. And it's great that the world can facilitate that. However, I personally would love for my child to be able to choose from his own heart and his own passion, because at the end of the day, no matter what he's doing, he needs to enjoy what he's doing. It's not about the money making. It's not about the climbing the ladder. It's not about the accolades. It's not about the status. It's about enjoying what you do. And so whatever it is that he ends up doing or chooses to do, as long as he's enjoying it, I'm happy. And personally, I feel that I didn't get that opportunity because I did display academic abilities as a child. And I guess it was exciting for my parents, I don't know, but it wasn't the route for me. And I so wish that I had explored the other avenues more aggressively and spent more of my time doing those things. So it's so beautiful to see that kids these days are actually getting that opportunity, because it would have been an absolute dream for me as a child.
And the fact that there are so many communities out there, and the fact that even in the UAE, there's such a massive community. It's exciting for our future.
I love that. And I also love it because people say, oh, but your child has to have a social life. They have to be able to spend time with other kids. And they do. The homeschooling community or the unschooling community, they do spend time together. They do have friends who are in the same situation, and they can do social things. And obviously they do team sports and all of that too. They sign up for team sports. So it's not an antisocial way of doing things. I think that's a misconception. It's not an antisocial way of doing things. So I found this conversation very helpful, very informative, and it's opened my eyes and mind and shown us the way. And I'm so excited to explore more along this topic.
Yeah, I would also love to eventually get someone in that is in the academic field that would like to give their point of view. That's obviously not a 100% biased point of view, you know, but someone that can really tell us what they feel, and maybe they believe that could have been a way for them to teach and to train, you know, and to learn. So watch this space, because we are going to do something really cool with this.
Yeah, because there's so many opportunities in this space. It's a young space. It's a new movement. And it's a very fruitful, juicy, exciting space, because there's so many things you can do with kids to light up their brains and to make things creative and fun and different and encourage learning. So we are very excited about things that we have planned within this space. Stay tuned. Keep watching this space. We do have some little tricks and treats and things up our sleeves.
And we got some really cool, exciting podcast episodes that we are confirming over the next 2 weeks. So please stay tuned, and you're going to get some really juicy content.
Follow our Instagram, UAE, Grow Your Finances. Follow us on Facebook if you're not following us on Facebook. Follow us on our podcast platforms.
You can subscribe, you can like, you can love, you can leave comments, you can
put us on download,
and
automatic
most
download.
Importantly, put that automatic download, because it really helps us out, and give us a nice 5-star review.
And we will keep bringing you the content, keep bringing you the benefits. We will see you at our meetup on the 27th of April, everyone.
And just remember, the bigger the group gets, the bigger the guests get, the bigger the prizes get.
And we really mean that. It's coming for you guys soon. Stay tuned.
And on that note, don't forget, pay yourself first, because you are worth it.
Money